A few weeks ago, I was hospitalized and I nearly died. However, I'm here living today to tell you my testimony of God's healing power. Hello, everybody. My name is Dietric Wing-Paul, and welcome to the Good Steward podcast. I wanted to tell this story to you all for quite some time, a few weeks ago. However, when moments like that happen, I think it was time for me to truly reflect what was going on. Like truly step into God's presence. Because I didn't want to necessarily tell you a week after it happened, but I want to tell you as I'm pondering and I'm seeking the Lord at this time. So you see the title that I was hospitalized and I nearly died. And this incident happened in early March, March 3rd, during church service. It was around the 8 a.m. service. And I shared with you in previous videos that I am a church musician. So during the 8 a.m. service, I was playing. And at some point, I was like, man, it's getting a little bit cold in here. And I started to feel a little bit of chills in my body. I thought that maybe the heater's not on. I thought that, hey, it's still early March and it's still reasonably cold in New York. So I thought that maybe the heater wasn't on and I'm just cold because of it. And it's pretty cold in New York around that time. But as I progressed and as the 8 a.m. service was progressing, I started to feel more chills on my body. And I started to lose strength. So towards the end of the service at the altar call, I placed my guitar on the stand. And I remember that when I reached for my guitar, I remember vividly how I felt like it was so heavy, unusually heavy. I was like, wait a minute, my guitar is not that heavy and I'm struggling to pick it up. And while I'm in position, my right hand was shaking. My right hand was shaking uncontrollably. I literally I couldn't control it. I couldn't control the chills. And I was unable to play during the altar call, and I was unable to play during the communion. So after the communion, I went to the back. And once I went to the back, I started to feel chills throughout my body. I literally couldn't control it. And now I suddenly felt palpitations. My heart was racing. I've never, ever experienced my heart racing like that. And towards the end of the service, there were some people who saw me. And I was immediately attended. Some of the members at my church, they gave me tea, they gave me fruit. They were just asking me what is going on. I'm saying I'm having chills in my body. I just experienced palpitations and body weakness. I was just completely weak. I couldn't pick up my guitar. And pastor saw me and I was so weak that when pastor says, let's further examine this in my office, I literally couldn't walk. I struggled to walk to his office. So I literally had to be assisted by a fellow member to walk to pastor's office to be further examined. And they checked my temperature. Thank God that some members at my church are medical professionals, nurses and doctors, and they saw that I had a very high temperature, a fever, going up to 102 degrees. And I was still feeling chills in my body. And I was still feeling pain. And one of the members said, you need to go to the hospital. And I just protested. I was like, I want to play during the 8 a.m. service. I want to continue. I want to go on. But one of the members again just says, you need to go to the hospital. So I took heed. We called the ambulance, and I was rushed into the emergency room when I was being attended. And I just want to thank God again. After service, several people of my church visited me. Let me tell you this. When I was in the emergency room, I never worshiped like I did. I was saying, the flesh may die away, but the spirit renews. Each and every single day, I was singing to the Lord. I was crying out to the Lord. I even prayed for the other patients in the ER. I prayed for his healing touch. I said, Lord, take your eyes away from my condition and attend those, oh Lord, who need your healing touch. There was a moment in time, I'm telling you, that I was willing to tell the Lord, don't pay attention to my pain. Attend to others. It was a bold prayer. I prayed for those who didn't know Jesus, that they one day will learn about him. I prayed for the patients who know Jesus and they find hope in the midst of their pain and illness. That moment in my life, it pushed me. It pushed me to a spiritual brink that I was not expecting to be hospitalized. I was not expecting, to be that sick. But I rejoiced in the Lord. And I found this peace, knowing that in the midst of me suffering, me on that hospital bed, worshiping him like I never before, cried out to him like I never before, I felt this peace in my mind, in my heart. So that night, I was attended by the nurses, the doctors, and several members of my church who are also nurses or medical professionals. And one of the members noticed while I was sleeping that my temperature skyrocketed to 103.5 degrees. And she woke me up and she just put a bunch of ice packs throughout my body. And she said, if you reached 104 degrees, you would have had a seizure. You would have a seizure. And let me tell you this. I would not have known, or I wouldn't know that my heart would have handled that. My life could have ended. I was 0.5 degrees from having a seizure. But the Lord's hand covered me. He covered me. He alerted the member of my church to check my temperature and to take immediate action. So while I was hospitalized on Sunday, March 3rd, I was hospitalized for 2 more days, and I started to receive more care, and more tests. They thought that it was something related to my heart. And just for context, I was born with a heart condition, and they ran some tests and they found nothing. It's just a virus. It's just a virus. So I live to tell you this story that in such a dire situation like that, in a moment where I could have lost my life, that I was actually I actually come up to terms of my situation. I dealt and I embraced the situation by rejoicing in him. I praised him. I sang. I prayed for others. So in the midst of your suffering, if you are going through an illness, or if you're suffering in general, in whatever ways, rejoice in the Lord. There's a reason why the Bible says rejoice in all times. There's a reason why the Bible says the call to action when you are suffering, when you're going through trials, is to rejoice in him. Because when we rejoice in him, we experience peace. When we rejoice in him, we recognize his sovereignty, that his hand is always active. He's not a passive God. He's not a God that ignores his children. He is a God who's with you through and through. Find hope in him. So I'm here today to tell you that I have lived in that moment where my life could have ended. And this was a week before my birthday. I could have thrown in the towel. I could have said, really? A week before my birthday? I could have been hopeless. But I'm here today to tell you that I've been restored. I've been healed. And I'm just getting started.